welcome to Conversation 473. We're in St. George's, Grenada. This evening, we're going to be discussing the hurricane season. As you know, June 1st, the start of the Atlantic hurricane season. That was Monday, yesterday. We'll also take a look at the arrival on Wednesday, tomorrow, of the Grenadians who have been in the UK for the last few months since the lockdown across the world as a result of COVID-19. So it's the Hot Topics night. We're inviting our viewers as well to throw in your suggestions of things that you want to have a chat with us about. We know you're very active in the chat section of our nightly conversations. So please feel free. It's a night of no set topic, so you can throw in. Well, apart from we'll also have a little chat about the busmen. I think Ms. McQueen wants to talk a little bit about the struggles of the busmen and how important it is for them to be able to feed their children as well. So Conversation 473 starts now. Kitaka is here, and of course Rolanda is here. Hi guys.
Hi Kadishto, what's up? How are you doing, Ms. McQueen? I missed you guys today.
Very well, and how have they been?
It's been a good day, hard working as usual, but you know, we're fighting on, soldiering on.
That's it.
All right. So we'll take a word from the program's sponsor, and we'll get right into the conversation.
It is time for Grenada to define for herself what independence means.
What has happened here this morning has made me feel confident to face the future with fortitude, strength, and with hopefulness.
People begin to understand that our lives don't have to be so hard. Things can change, you know.
We are all currently facing the same crisis and very similar challenges. And no one can afford to be myopic or bigoted in this fight. We have no choice but to work together.
We have heard the call, and we are determined to come out of this pandemic greater than we entered.
You know, I didn't realize the Prime Minister featured so much on that Moncure ad.
Why? He's our leader. He's a top man.
It was interesting to hear him say that we are all facing the same crisis. No, dear Prime Minister, we are not all facing the same crisis. Pretty words as usual. I can always count on my dear Honorable Prime Minister with the pretty words.
The one of the part there for me is where the woman said, life doesn't have to be that hard, you know. This really touches me. Every time I hear that part always touches me when she said life doesn't have to be that hard, you know. You know, because I've known, you know, when our parents, you know how much food I have eaten that tasted kerosene, you know how much pot we have put on the fire with a mass and tow, you know. And when I look at how hard life was when I was growing up, and I didn't have a hard life, you know. To me it was fun because my family had, but we went through the mass and tow, and you know, it just makes me wonder how people survive through them time, going for water all hour of the night, trekking in the rainforest, going for water. When it's rain, getting the firewood, and you know, people eye burn. I mean, come on, but we haven't moved on that much. We may have the gas stove, but now there are so many people out there burning coals. You know, I'm looking now, I'm seeing people walking with plastic bottles in their hands. You know, we're talking over 50 years ago. Things haven't really changed much. When you look at people are still struggling. Where the woman said things does not have to be that hard. That has been in the time of Bishop. Has things really change that much. You know,
Well,
it's, you know,
the compliments, the compliments that you are frequently giving to the Prime Minister and the praises that you have for the Prime Minister I'm trying to reconcile your observations about how things have not, Pitaka, I'm getting a feedback about how things have not changed so much over 50 years. You know, he has had a lot of power for the last 25 years or so. And you know, as a great miracle worker of politics, you're still seeing people walking with plastic bottles in their hands to go fetch water, and cooking on coals. Although food that cooked on coals tastes really good, and if you're doing an oil dung, you have to do it on wood. You know, oil dung that cook on the stove is just not a national dish. The firewood is part of the national ingredient.
It's not oil long, it's steam long.
It's not oil dung. You have to have it on firewood. So you know, we have a lot of amenities now. A lot more people have more access to certain amenities and so on. But really, our standard of living is not that much further from where our grandparents and our great grandparents were. And you know, they had it better because they had access to more fish. They had access to more fresh produce. A lemon did not cost $1. You know, I have sat here and watched under the watch of the Prime Minister who loves us so much that a lemon is now $1 and tomato is $8 a pound. And there has to be a glut on the market for it to go anywhere around $3 or $4 a pound. So, you know, I'm still I'm still
yeah,
trying to. I'm still trying to find a reason to hail the great leader, Miss McQueen. You're seeing something I'm not seeing. I need to borrow your glasses. And you know, one of the topics we have for tonight is the hurricane season. And you know, no surprise to me, they are not ready. The minister in charge of disaster management in Grenada, Winston Garraway, he issued a statement, a very long statement. You know, they do these long statements with a lot of highfalutin words, but if you bother to dissect it, it really isn't saying much. But what I got out of it was that we still have not released a list of hurricane shelters. Today is June 2nd. We're doing this program on June 2nd, 2 days into the start of the hurricane season. And just as last year, when it took weeks to actually announce the list of approved shelters, 2 days into the season, and what they're saying is that they're still inspecting. And one of the things that we have to rely on our governments to do is to be proactive and to be able to multitask. And yes, we had the COVID crisis on, but the Ministry of Health is the ministry which has point on this. And while all of the other ministries, you know, are involved and working, we knew the hurricane season was coming. So I'm sure the excuse that we're going to get, and there was another excuse last year as to why they were weeks late with the shelters. But I'm sure that COVID will be the culprit this year when asked why they're so late with it. But apparently they're still inspecting and will announce a list of approved shelters. So, you know, the shelters are there. They don't really change much from year to year. But that official announcement that here we've looked at this, because the engineers on the Ministry of Works, they're responsible for going around to each of these shelters and checking to make sure that they are up to standard for sheltering people during a hurricane event, a weather event.
but that was the reason.
Or any other kind of disaster. But apparently they have not done so yet. And the engineers have not been busy with much else because all of the works and all of the infrastructure works and so on have been at a standstill. Last year, what they said last year was that the government was doing so well economically that the engineers were busy on other projects. And so it took a while for them to get to the important business of making sure that Grenadians would be secure during a hurricane season. But this year they haven't been that busy, so I'm not sure what the reason will be. I suppose COVID, as I said, COVID will be the culprit. So yeah, into 2 days into the hurricane season, and there's no official announcement of where Grenadians will shelter. If one of 16, let me just say here as well, at 16, there's 16 named storms have been announced. and we expect 8 to turn into major systems and 4 to be extremely dangerous storms that can come. So we're down in the south, and the pressure, the low pressure system, I think it's a low pressure system or a high pressure system, I can't remember, which has kept us relatively safe for a long time. But Ivan has shown us that we're not immune to getting hit by a major system.
One of the things, Kalisha, is water. And because of COVID, our ports are not open. I don't know if I can't speak for the other water companies, but I was very surprised that I've heard there were so many announcements about they having special people getting together and planning, and no one has contacted us to find out if we will have enough water just in case of if there is a disaster. And if there is a hurricane, we pray to God that one don't hit us. What people need is clean water, because if you don't have clean water and you get cholera, pipe bursting and things like that, we should have enough water put aside. That surprised me that nobody has reached out and said, as I say, I don't know if they've done to the other water company. And I, worrying like I'm a government minister, saying to my staff, we have to be prepared for hurricane. We have to make sure there is enough water down in case there is a disaster, because if there is a hurricane, what is going to happen? The ports are not fully opened. And once we're in the hurricane season, a hurricane could strike anytime. And where you have just mentioned that the shelters, people should automatically know where the shelters are. So this is something we shouldn't wait for when the hurricane season approaches, that we getting prepared. This should that should have done months down the road, and it should be announced 2 weeks before the season starts. This is where the shelters are. Get people familiar with it. These things I cannot understand. But as I said, I'm a businesswoman. I'm not a government minister. So maybe that is how things are done. Because I think when there is, people, not everybody that has transportation, I, for instance, I have no idea where is any shelter or what to do. God forbid there is a hurricane. And there is lots of people that don't. Remember, again, there is no food. Everybody has spent, the money they had over COVID. Are the government stocking up on food? Have we got food just in case there is a disaster? When there was the last hurricane, I remember for a whole week, no planes could have come in. By the time England, who sent the Navy in, it's weeks, there is no food. Have we got a stockpile of food and water for in case there is a disaster? It would be very interesting to know if the government planned for things like that, or we have to sit and wait for the Red Cross.
Well, let me just say, Kitaka, that what Winston Garraway has said in his very long statement on food is that he says he knows that families have been stockpiling food in response to COVID. I don't know where he's been that he would think that the majority of Grenadians still have the food that was stockpiled for COVID-19, and that these stockpiles would come in handy, useful during the hurricane season. This is his position, that whatever you stocked up for COVID is going to be helpful in the hurricane season. Now, as we know, we usually would have our separate hurricane stash. Apart from your daily supplies in your house for food, for preparing meals and stuff, there's your hurricane stash. So it tells me that once again, the government continues to be very far removed from the needs of the people, from being late with the shelters to not understanding that the food crisis situation is going to be even more critical in this time now, when people, I don't know, a lot of people are not going to be able to put a hurricane kit together in this country. And certainly not with $330 from NIS. Go ahead, Kitaka.
Well, yeah, but I think, Alistair, the word prepared, when I define the word prepared means to become ready to deal with something. And we cannot like go into preparedness, like how we are accustomed doing things, like how we are accustomed being late, something starting 9 and we starting at 10 and 11, last minute kind of, that doesn't work when you're trying to prepare for something that it's even difficult to even prepare for something like a hurricane. And we have seen how the hurricanes recently have been like monsters. So for me, I think our government, if you guys listening, you have to take a longer term approach. Like hurricane planning had to happen like all the time, like continuously see how we could improve the shelters, continuously seeing how we could store food, continuously seeing how we could have strategies to deal with emergency evacuations and people that close to where the oceans and certain risk areas are, like having safety planning for them and that kind of thing. So for me, it's sad and it worries me that that kind of a planning is not there. I mean, the statement made by Gawe shows that he is not in touch with what's going on the ground, and that seems to be a problem with our government in terms of not being abreast with what's happening on the ground. And if you're not abreast with the reality, then you're not able to plan properly, and then you will be thinking you're safe in certain areas when that's an high risk area. So I mean, COVID might be used as a scapegoat, but I think right now they need to be hurrying and scurrying to put certain things in place, because we know the risk that we could encounter with these crazy storms that has been hitting us recently.
I think also it could be possible that that they may feel that okay, it's early days still. Our storms have come in September. Emily, Ivan, Janet, Lenny. I think did Lenny touch us too? I think that there was a storm that happened in the 90s. We had a bit of a touch from a storm, not a hurricane, but a storm, sometime in the 90s as well. So it is possible that because of the timing of it, because we seem to be affected later down in the season, the authorities may feel that they have some time. But given the state that the country is in because of COVID, I thought there might have been some simultaneous planning. While we're dealing with COVID, we're also dealing with getting ourselves ready for a disaster, because certainly we can't predict how hurricanes are going to behave. We can't, assume that, okay, September is our month. It could happen before, and we would find ourselves, up a creek without a paddle. But, Ms. McQueen, one of the things that you said, you're a business person, and, one of the things, during the hurricane season, people buy more water because people are actually storing bottled water for the season. So as a business person, even without the government, coming to you to discuss whether or not, what production levels you should go at in order to meet possible demands. And so you on your own can, assume that there will be an increase in sales, especially coming down to, the closer to the end of the season, that people are preparing for it.
Yeah, but you see, I'm kind of sure. Remember, we don't make any raw materials on the island. So when I said, okay, thank God we are okay, we are prepared, I'm prepared. But it would have been nice if they had come and have a word with us as essential workers to say, are you prepared? Do you need to order more preforms in? What do you need? Is there anything? We know the port's been closed down for, for 2 months. Is there anything, have meeting with, I don't know who is in charge of our department, but I feel so lonely as a businesswoman in Grenada, because it seems like, I feel like I'm doing my part, but it's like I am working all by myself. There is no, you hear my friends and them who are business people in England, they just have to send in their tax reference number, and their money is, one friend of mine got £50,000 in her account. A friend of mine, son who had a business, a small barber shop, got £15,000. Because you have to keep small business afloat, because that is what keeps the economy going. And we had to send workers home. And as I said, last year wage bill alone was $350,000. We have to send workers home, and that shows me the effect it will have on our economy. And I believe in planning. I went to the ministry on Monday. Kalisha, I was totally shocked to see that the ministry had a delivery of foreign water. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that we're just going through COVID. I am here putting out a video saying that we are all in this together. And out of all place, the ministry had a truckload there with foreign water. I took a photo of it, and I got so upset. One of my staff was with me. She ran away. She said, "Miss McQueen, there you go again." And I said to one lady, I said, "We cannot do that. I have to let people off, and not only me, the other water companies. We had to let staff go home, because of the disaster we had, and the ministry is buying foreign water." Now, the ministry should not buy anything that is foreign. They are the one that has to lead. They are the one that's supposed to say, we do not want anything that is foreign in the ministry complex. Buy local. We have 3 water company on the island. Why would they be bringing in foreign water? I cannot understand it.
Well, well, you should not be surprised that the government is buying water from outside of the country at this time when local businesses need the revenue more than ever before. I am not surprised. Really not surprised at all. It's true to form of the attitude, the policies that we have had to endure and deal with for the longest while. And to expect the government to call you to try to plan. The government has not yet finished inspecting the hurricane shelters. They're still in the process of inspecting the hurricane shelters. They're still in the process of preparing the COVID plan, because we had the COVID scare and people are, in shelters, people are all close together and mixing. Protocols have to be put in place. They knew the hurricane season was coming. Those protocols have not yet been established. So checking you to see whether or not you have what you need to meet possible demands for the hurricane season. Dream on. Oh, by the way,
I have a question for Ms. McQueen as well too. That's a question I want to ask Ms. McQueen. Ms. McQueen, Kalisha, was it this question you wanted to ask? Kalisha, you can hear me?
Actually, no. I think
no. Brian, can I sing?
Singularly supply.
No,
she's not even suggesting that. But
no, and Brian, no, Brian, we cannot. Montpelier cannot single-handedly supply water to Grenada. That is the reason why when I started the business, I reached out to all the water companies in Grenada. I says to them, listen, we have to get together. We have to form an association, because as I said, in 2017, we imported 4 million US of water. And for me, I think that was too much. I think that is taking bread out of our mouth. And I reached out many times, now I am having some cooperation. Now we start speaking, and we're going to start speaking soon with one voice. I'm happy that we are on the table now, because we think that we have enough water here. We have to create jobs. We have to think about ourselves. So soon, myself, Blue, Glenelle, we are speaking, and we are hoping to form an association so we could start looking after ourselves. We may still have to bring in water, but what I want to see is we start thinking about Grenada first. We cannot have these other water companies coming in when we have 3 water companies here that should be taking the big part of that income, not foreign companies. We have to provide work for our people. If we don't do that, you know, we will be in bigger trouble. And no, Brian, somebody said, have I got a direct line for the Prime Minister? No, I've never met the Prime Minister. I don't know the Prime Minister personally. I have a very good friend of mine. When I came here to do business, I've said that I try to have meetings with him to talk about my business. I was never given an audience. But you know, I think one of the reasons why I always said, if people has voted for for a leader, then I would support whoever my Grenadian people put in power. I would never say, well, because I don't like that person, I am not going to support them. If next election they put someone else in, even if I do not support, I would always support them. I would never go against what the people vote for.
But Ms. McQueen, it's not just it's we cannot encourage that kind of mentality. There might be people in the country who would be listening to you and who look up to you there and would follow your lead. I don't understand, how can you say, oh, you would always support whoever the people vote for?
Yes, but why would I try and pull them down?
No, it's not about trying to pull them down. By being concerned or being critical about things that are not going right in the country is not pulling anybody down. You are concerned and upset because you just discovered that a few $100 million of our monies have floated away with various bad deals and guarantees that were signed for strange people and stuff like that. You found that out and you didn't like that, did you? So
no, I don't like it.
Exactly. So
I don't like it.
Well, I know, but don't say that. Oh, well, I'm not going to try to pull them down. Or I'm going to support whoever the people put there. Sometimes the decision that the people make turn out not to be so right. Sometimes it turns out to be a disaster. And when that happens, we have to acknowledge that we cannot play softball and act as if, oh, you know, I don't want them. I want to appear as if I'm so patriotic to my country. Patriotism means criticizing your government and pulling your government down if that is what is required for the good of the nation. People vote for varying reasons. Have you checked into what happened in the last elections and elections before that? The excessive campaign spending, the fact that the OAS has constantly recommended that we have a campaign financing legislation that we don't have. So the playing field is not level where one person can spend $1 while another person only has 10 cents to spend. Okay? All these names on the voters list that the electoral office has said yes to, but have not done anything about it. So you can't say that, oh, this is a decision that people have made, and so I'm going to support them?
Okay, can I say, Kalisha, look at it.
No, we don't support governments. We support our nation, and we support what is good for our nation. Our nation is our people, and we support what is good for them. You know, I have nothing against the Prime Minister. He's a fun guy. You know, maybe one day me and him will meet up by Shotman up in Fontenoy when things cool down and have a fish broth, right? He'll ask me about my mom and I'll tell him she's okay and that kind of thing. But the bottom line is that when it comes to the governance of the nation, when it comes to our resources, it's no joke. It's no time for us to be concerned about how it looks if we say this or if we say that. If the people vote and they made a mistake, then the people must say, we made a mistake. Or we voted here, and some of the things that we voted for are not being fulfilled. That's what the process calls for. The process doesn't call for us to say, I will always support who the people vote for. You must always support what is good and right for the country. So if the people vote for somebody who's doing bad things to the country, you cannot support this person, because then you would not be supporting the people, because the people would be hoping that you would help them to fix the mistake that they made.
But then why stay at a standstill? Listen, I come across people that does not support the government. And what they do, they try to break down everything that person is trying to build. So what I'm trying to say is the government has one majority. They had a clean sweep. That is what the people wanted. Well, if the government is doing something I does not like, I would speak about it. But I am not going to go and try to mash up everything they are trying to do. You know, if they're while they're doing something, if I don't like like all this money, $1.3 billion that has lost. You see, I took Spice Mass to court because I didn't like what they were doing. You know, we could oppose it, but I'm not going to stand in the way and be destructive and turn around and say, you know, because when this government move on, remember the people that is in government now, they're all pensioners. Most of them going to be going senile, if they're not going senile by now, have Alzheimer's. We're going to have the younger people coming to take over. Right? So I am not going, I'm looking now to the younger people that is coming up to take over, because the people in government now is not, maybe they're going to be there in the next 10 years time, but we have to build on what they have done. Maybe it's not the way we want it to, but we hope that the younger generation, the new generation that is coming, going to look at it and say, you know something, this is what they did. Maybe we can tweak it a bit here and a bit there, rather than just going blind saying, I don't like the government, I don't like anything they are doing. It's like doing what Donald Trump did. Everything that Obama did, Donald Trump spent all his time trying to undo it. And what I'm saying, the people has voted, this is who they want in. We may not, there is lots of things I may not like, you may not like, but let us work along with it. It's only 4 years, it's not for a lifetime. You know, it's 4 more years or 3 more years to go. And if that time come and we see things does not wait, then we have a choice. That's when we have a choice. We can vote and get rid of them. But I'll respect.
But you know, Kitaka, let me clear this up, because your good friend Saisha Williams is back again on the program, and you know, Saisha has a little axe to grind. I see he still has his axe to grind, and is continuing to grind it. Who I am to say that the masses have made a mistake? I am part of the masses, Saisha Williams, okay? There are times when you make a decision, you may marry a man and invest all your money in a business, and it turns out to be a deadbeat, and your family and you decide that you made a mistake, okay? He may turn out to be a pedophile, all kinds of things. It's the same thing with a government, that you vote a government in power based on what they would have presented on the platform, and sometimes that's not realized. Now, we have a democratic system. So pulling down there's no pulling down of a government. There's being critical of your government, there's holding your government to account. And this is what I'm speaking of here. And when you say you would go along with the government and support whatever they do, it is misleading, Ms. McQueen.
Well, yeah, well, I won't support whatever they do.
No, what you came back and explained cleared the air on your position. But what you said before made it look as if, you know what, no matter what this government does, come hell or high water, any government, whatever they do, come hell or high water, I'm with them, because this is the decision we made at the polls. And saying something like that, I believe, is dangerous. But of course, you came back and explained it. Yes, and I am part of the masses, so I can say that the masses would have made an error, and I'm sure a lot of the masses believe so, because the masses are not just the ones who are affiliated to the winning party, it's the entire country.
Well, Kalishta, I mean, for me, even this discussion making me see how regressive the system is as well. Because I think, obviously, we all agree that the partisan politics in voting for the green and the yellow, and voting for who we like and who we don't like, has been putting us in a kind of situation. But also, what I think it shows is how regressive this is. Like, I think we may have to reach to a point where we run our country like a business. I mean, we have a CEO. If the CEO not performing, we are able to effectively and in a more smoother way get the CEO out based on performance, because we could look at the tracking record and see what the CEO is supposed to deliver in the first quarter or in a 2-year period. If it doesn't, we know love lost, that CEO has to go and a next CEO come in, because I think it really shows that we need to go to a point of performance. Performance needs to be what we judge on, and merit. And we can have a situation in our country where, and we can have a discourse, and if I say, well, this thing is hot trash and needs to be changed, it needs to be improved, that is seen as fight down and so on. But also we have to agree that our oppositions over the last couple of years in Grenada has just been fighting everything. you know, and you don't build country by fighting everything. Not everything is bad, but there are areas we need to improve. So I think we need to come to a situation where we run our country like a hardcore business, where if you're in the ministry and the public service, you should not be untouchable if you're not producing, and we could look and see you're not producing, just as how in the private sector you'll be fired and you need to go get another job. That kind of consequences need to be there. That sort of fire needs to be put under the foot of those people who feel that they're untouchable when they're not delivering, so we could really move the country forward. Because I mean, it's sad that I have been in workplaces where when you stand up in a meeting and you really voice your opinion on certain things and how you see things clearly and frankly, you end up becoming public enemy number one by the staff. People snitching on you and doing all types of things. And that environment is not conducive for progression, and because most of the times we all have a valid perspective in it. And the point of at that point now, and what is next, is for us to bring all those perspectives together to have a hybrid solution. You know, and I think it's about time that our politicians, our leaders, our people rise above the petty prejudice and don't get too soft in the feelings, so we could take constructive criticism and utilize those things to grow and develop, because our country depends on it. And after COVID and all the hurricane are coming, we can't be fighting for this again.
I totally agree with you, Kitaka. I totally agree with you. The country should be run like as a business. If there are people that cannot do their job, because it seems the way it seems we bring people in that hasn't got a clue. Most of the people that is our representative, like somebody said to me in one of their constituency, they needed a toilet in the playing field. Why do we have to go to the government to organize a toilet in the playing field? The person, the representative, should be able to get the people together, get the material, wherever they get it, and build a toilet, why? So we have people in jobs that cannot do the job. Sometimes when I listen to some of them, you cringe. As I said, when I came in here, in Simone, they had a factory there with all the machines, right? They refused to give it to me. I had to go and spend thousands of pounds to open up a new factory. You know what happened to all this machine? Because somebody had an axe to grind. Maybe they didn't like me or whatever it is. But I was coming in here to create a job. All the machines now have stayed in the factory rotten. And this was money. I could have employed more people. We could have turned around business much faster. Now, whoever made that decision, even if I went and speak to somebody about it, nothing would happen. So Kalisha, Kitaka, you are so right. The country needs to be run like a business.
Well, there's a question here from Mikel. Mikel is saying he disagrees with me. But Mikel, I was not speaking specifically on profit-driven. I'm speaking on performance, having performance as a vital way to equate. Because right now, the government is spending a lot of money on the public service and other things that are not possibly generating a profit. So the same people are working there. What I'm saying is performance need to be a core thing that we utilize to use and to use as a metric and a criteria on whether or not someone can stay in the job. It can be a situation where when you get permanent, you're untouchable and you could just stay there and get fat and not really be productive, and you're going to stay there still because you're untouchable. It's a situation where you know that if you don't perform within that period, then you are likely that some other person could come up and take your job, and that would keep you on edge so that you would be producing more. So yeah, Mikel, I was not saying, okay, the government operating with profit-based and profit-focused and profit-driven, which I think also we need to be making a little bit more profits as well. But the main aim I was trying to get across is performance. Even in schools, children just going up in class, like performance, like we really have to be results-oriented. Let's get stuff done. That's what we're looking for. Not who we like, not who could talk the best, not who could look better, and this kind of things. Performance.
I was told that the government hasn't audited their books. I'm not sure, we could check. They haven't audited their books for 7 years. I don't know if that is true, but the person that we was.
Well, I don't think that might be true, man. That must be a rumor, because if the IMF is in the government books, I don't think the government would have qualified for the loans and so on that they got if there was not following some of the things under the structural adjustment program. So you'd have to maybe fact check that.
Well, we'll have to, yeah, but I think there is lots of people that is not, that worries me. And as you say, we have to get people in. I mean, listen, we cannot afford to lose another $1.3 billion to crooks. Little things like that. Somebody said to me that the post office is sold and the government is refusing to say who the post office is sold to. I mean, these things.
Ms. Malcolm, before we go into that, there were some questions. There's some questions that came up. One question that came up earlier on was specific to you about water. Someone is asking, like, why do you use plastic bottles, and what's your take on the effect that is having on the environment?
Can you put it up? Can you put up that question? And I want to speak to that person direct. Who was it that said that?
Hold on 1 second. Let me get it. Why do we need bottled water? There are plenty of springs. Bottled water just means more plastic in the environment.
That's Chris, is
it? Chris Davies.
Chris Davies. Why do we need bottled water? There are plenty of springs. Chris, the plastic. If you go, I don't know when last you've been on a Grenadian supermarket or shops. We worry about the wrong thing, Chris. 99.999% of the plastic on the Grenadian supermarket is not produced by Montpure, Glenelg, Poly, or Blue. Don't worry about the little, we are like a drop in the ocean. Your concern should be about the 99.99% of plastics that is coming in. It seems that we get blinded. As I said, we forgetting the log in our eye, and we're looking at the one in our neighbor. Let us stop those coming in. Anything that is coming in on our island should not be in plastic. People always come to me and say about plastic. And I say to them, 99.99% of the plastic in Grenada is not created by the water company. We are importing foreign water in Grenada, much more than what the 3 water companies in Grenada can produce. But nobody is speaking about it. Let us worry about what is coming in. As a people, we always seem to worry about us, to bring the local business down and allow the foreign business a free run, they could do anything. Look at what is coming in. Don't look at what we have here. We are okay here because we do not, myself, Glenelg, Poly, and Aqua, we do not produce that much plastic. We bring in thousands, as I said, in 2017. We bring in $4 million US worth of water on the island. Nobody is speaking about it because all you just go blind and all you're thinking, well, let us start thinking now.
Also, sorry, share that question as well too. If we are truly serious about water security and not the hurricane season, we need to start collecting runoff water so we're not using potable water for all our needs. We can have 2 pipes, one blue for potable and one red for everything else. Most of our coastal villages have space to store water that ends up in the ocean. Sasha,
I totally agree with you, Kalisha. Saisha, what really gets to me, we're building all these hotels that needs a lot of water. The biggest threat to the Caribbean at the moment is water security. We do not even know how much water we have. I was going up to my plant and I was totally shocked to see people are cutting the rainforest down and nobody is there to put regulation or say there is nobody you could report to right up underneath our aquifer. They're clearing, people just cutting down trees that take hundreds of years to grow. Nobody don't seems to care. The biggest problem I have is people does not seem to care. We have all these hotels, and them are they going to have are they going to be using seawater? Nobody speak. People just come, they do things, and nobody educate the public. So it leaves me very, very, very frustrated. When you see I have a property in Grand Anse. I cannot wet my grass. But you find the foreign hotel and them grass is as green grass at home. Where are they getting the water from? You know, it seems things are happening and nobody is saying anything because, as you know, everybody is frightened of speaking. And this is the type of thing we have to be speaking about. I agree with you.
Yeah, but I mean, and that's a very important issue, Sasha, because one of my friends who is working on a project in Grenada now made a point to me about our water system, even on the Nawassa front. You know, she made a point that Nawassa system, the biggest issue most of the times is plenty of water leaks out of Nawassa main lines because there's not a technological system to pinpoint where they have broken pipes. Sometimes a pipe could be broken in the bush right now and water leaking out, and we don't know where water leaking out, and there's a lot of money and resources that has to be spent to redo that. So right now there's a project ongoing to kind of get our water system more mechanized and technologically inclined where they could monitor the systems. But I think even within our own homes, like recycling our water, like using water from the house, like make sure we're not using all the chemicals in the house and so on. And that water can maybe go to wet plants or wash a car or something else. Because when we use the water from our pipe, even simple things like opening our pipe and brushing with teeth and bathing, and you made the point about hotels, Miss McQueen, like that should never be the case where vital water that is dependent for people to eat and drink is being used to wash down cars and being used to wet the grass and so on, because people out here have to understand, like right now, look at the drought. Many of our rivers levels are very low right now. And if you keep cutting down trees and the dry season continues to get more severe, there's farmers with their pumps in rivers that also affecting the water supply and the water flow. You know, the chemicals that go in, pesticides that go into the water. So like water is essential and a resource that we really need to be protecting. And when coming to hurricane, and not just hurricane, but our overall sustenance, because I've seen recently how much people cussing online about Nawassa. You know, sometimes the water dirty, sometimes they're taking the water often. So that is a clear indication of the serious issues they're having now. So I ain't just cutting off the water because they want to cut off the water. And that means they have a lot of issues going on that affects the water supply on a consistent basis. And they're actually the cheapest utility that we have. We pay in $100 and something of dollars for internet and flow and so on. So I think we really need to be addressing that water issue, and a lot of new ideas need to come on stream to find a way where we could really capitalize on wastewater, desalination, and all types of other things, because we really need it right now.
Oh, you're getting one of the point again. You were saying, Saisha, that you know, the plastic bottles. Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's not good for our environment. But let me tell you something. It is so expensive on the port. I think in Trinidad, the reason why they can do it so cheaply, and they could able to export their water. When you go to Carriacou and everywhere, you have the Trinidadian water just all over. Because as Kitaka was saying, I think the people that is running this industry, they're thinking like business people. They're thinking like bringing money back into the country. We do not think like that. It is so expensive to bring. We have to pay so much on the port to bring anything, even to bring in bottles, water, glass bottles. It is so expensive. We as small company cannot do it. And again, we do glass bottle, but the restaurants and them does not want to pay for it. Everybody, once anything is made on the island, remember, everything is like still slave labor. They will bring in the other water in and they will pay the price. But they will not, because all these people, and it's all about profit, is what the shareholders, it's about putting money in the shareholders' pocket. So they don't really care. You know, they will want to pay you for the 2 pence. right? And they will make the big money. As I said, one of us, this water, this small bottle, is selling in a hotel for $15 a bottle. So it's all about them making money and we having to pay the price on the port. We don't get all these big passes that the other, well, I know Montpure do not get it, what the other companies get. So, if we wasn't hard and we wasn't working together, we couldn't survive. We don't get no breaks. It's difficult opening a business in Grenada as a local person.
Yeah. Also, Ms. McQueen, there's someone that made a comment higher up. That's another point. But Chris Davis again, she said we need to abolish the Public Service Commission and have a proper human resource development who can hold staff accountable.
I agree. I can't even make any comment on that. Yes, I agree with you 100%. But as I said, we have to look to the future. You have the people like you coming up. Remember a lot of, like my parents, they were illiterate. These are people that work on the land. Most of my people, my age, our parents couldn't read and write. They educated us, and you now, this generation, now you are a lot more smart. So we hope that not too much damage is going to be done by the older heads. So when they do pass the baton to you, Guy, that all you will be thinking, your mindset will be totally different to your grandparents, to my mindset. All you'll be looking on things on a totally different level. Just hope they haven't put all you in too much debt, or China hasn't taken everything from you guys, where all you become slaves again. But you can't agree. I can't argue with your statement.
Callister, I'd like to weigh in on this. The statement made by Chris Davis, where she's saying that we need to abolish the Public Service Commission and have a proper human resource development who can hold staff accountable.
Well, I mean, she's not wrong, and it's a belief that is held by a lot of people. I know Brian Grimes. Hi, Brian. Brian is one of our loyal viewers and followers. Brian says, leave the public service alone. And so what, he's a union man, and that would be their position. But we have to admit that the way it's working, it's not working well for us, and you end up with a lot of square pegs in round holes. And so, I mean, our whole system of government and our public service needs to be revamped and modernized. I think Mikhail, I believe it was, also said that we need legislation to deal with our problems, that we really do need to change a lot of the legislation that guides how things work here, so that people are accountable for their actions, and especially actions against the national good of the country. So yes, I would tend to agree that we do need to have some changes in how our public service and public administration is governed.
Yeah, and for me, you wanted to make a point, Callister? Go on, continue. It was off for a bit.
I was going to say that there were some environmental issues came up while I was off for a bit, and I saw that Saisha Williams, he's impressed at how well I say his name, was making some valid comments about storage.
Yeah, we commented. And, we commented on it when you were off.
You talked about that. Yeah, I mean, really valid that using the non-potable, and that's potable, not portable, non-potable water for our other needs, like farming and so on, and that kind of thing, that we can use them for, and have our water, that is our potable water, available for consumption, human consumption. So that, I thought, was an interesting comment as well. I know that there's a whole project under the Climate Change Fund, and I think some of that, well, the whole issue of rainwater is under that, but those things go on forever and ever, and takes a while for implementation. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I think as well.
Public service.
But I think as well, before public service, I think as well, like Grenada need to learn a lot from Carriacou. in terms of dealing with water. Carrico have a lot of lessons to teach Grenada in terms of that. And as well, I think in all areas, we don't have to really reinvent the wheel. And there is so many systems in other countries that were tested and proven who have similar conditions to us that it may just be scanning what's there and adopting a system that works for us as well in being able to be more efficient with the use of our water.
One of the things Brian Grimes says, the recycling center, I know one of the water company wanted to do a recycling center, sorry, but they did not get the support from the government. You know, they were happy, and I think they have got their own investors in now, and they are going to do it independently. And this is Blue. And I'm really looking forward, you know, to working with them. It seems like anything that it's very difficult for people to get the support when they need support. I don't know why things are that difficult or who is stopping things, you know, but that is something as a business person here, it is very, very, very difficult to it seems like they sideline you. So it's very, very difficult if you see something that is good and you think, well, right, I'll be able to do recycling. You know, you should be able to go and speak to somebody and say, well, listen, there is this person. It is difficult. As I say, I'm new here, so I do not know if there is another way you have to go. People say you have to, make sure you put something in somebody's hands before anything come out of it. I don't know, but it's very, very difficult to do business here. You know, speaking personally, maybe from other people, it's not, but it is tough.
But Ms. McQueen, I think that comes from a lot of entrepreneurs here having the mentality and having to do it alone. Because if you really judge the Jewish community and look at how the Indians and other people operate, they create a more conducive interlocking network where the businesses support each other. They share overhead costs. And that kind of happens. Whereas sometimes a lot of the local entrepreneurs try to do it alone, try to do it for themselves, and have to bear the brunt of all the costs for themselves. And I think even more so than ever, going forward, even out of COVID, that would actually might be the only way some of businesses will make it if they team up with other businesses and we see what we could specialize in and how we all could create a system where we could eat and survive and unify. Because that's what's happening with the other businesses. Don't look at them. They might not be. There are companies who are outwardly look as competitors, and behind the scenes, some of the same men sit on the board.
Yes, that is one of the things that surprised me as well. Somebody was saying to me they wanted to open a bar here. And everything went through, and at the last minute, it was stopped. And the reason why it was stopped, one of the person on the board, wife, had a similar business, and that person was a foreign person. They had the person, and they just said, no, you can't open. And this is using Grenada products. This is using the products that our parents go out there and they get paid so little. And to know that there was an opportunity where they could go out there and they would have a demand for what they are producing, that people that's not even in the government, but sits on board, could turn around and say, no, it's not happening. That is the reason why when I say we cannot blame the Prime Minister for everything that is going wrong, because maybe the poor man don't even know what is going on.
Ms. McQueen, don't go there before I unleash Kalistra. And you have a question for Kalistra. Kalistra, a question from Brian.
Brian's question about whether...
Do you think CBI investors have progressive ideas for our country?
Well, I mean, no progressive ideas. It would be that they're actually, have the best interests of the people at heart. Serious feedback here, Kitty.
Okay.
So no, I mean, look at, they're building hotels, they're using our prime areas that we need to preserve and cutting things down indiscriminately. Bringing us back to planting cane in the cane field to make rum to export, and planting cane for Massa, who very much resembles Massa 400 years ago. So no, not definitely not. I mean, look at the areas where they invest. Nothing in the areas that matter to us that will really change our lives and make a difference to national development. I mean, with these hotels, even when all these hotels are building, upper and middle level management is not even Grenadians. We're the servers and the housekeepers and the gardeners and that kind of thing. We're not even in most cases we're not even the chief landscape guy. So no, the idea the CBI could be good. Just a second, baby, mommy's on the program still. CBI could be good for us if we are able to get honest businessmen to come and invest in areas that would benefit both them and the country, and move our people forward. Because as a business person, you want to make profit. That's what business is about, making profit. But they are a bit one-sided in the making profit thing part of it. So no.
Miss Martin, before we go, for me, sometimes, Kalishta, what I think is an issue is when our government and so on go to these meetings and so on, not having a linkage where we could link some of the prosperous ideas and entrepreneurs in Grenada, where that kind of funding from CBI could come and fund some of those businesses, and not just come and fund it and take over all the equity, but also have Grenadians having solid stake in those companies and being able to make some claims and demands for Grenadians to be heavily featured and to actually benefit from it. It's usually our investor come, he plan, he don't even do a full assessment of the country in terms of certain things, that what is profitable, what is not. Like Silver Sands, for instance, I don't know, a luxury hotel in the middle of Granans with dog backing right there. People could walk on the beach right in front of you. I'm not sure how that combination working, how profitable things are for them. So creating a connection where the brilliant ideas of Grenada can really connect to that funding. And we could also bridge some of the gaps we have in our technology and development and so on. Because as it stands now, man, we have an idea, may dream about a hotel, and the Caribbean is for hotels, and just come down here and build a hotel. And I think that's kind of dangerous for us. We need to.
Well, I mean, sometimes, Kitaka, it's not even about that. Sometimes it's about hiding funds, hiding from the taxman in your country and stuff like that. Sometimes it's just a strategic move for them that, this guy.
To get a passport? To get a passport too? Okay.
To get a passport that allows you to travel to other countries in the world where your nationality does not really allow you to move freely, and all kinds of things. A lot of the investors, government did a very dangerous thing when they said that the country of origin of these CBI investors, the people we're giving passports to, will under law remain a secret. It is well known that terrorism is funded through those kinds of operations where there's a business in some place that is neutral or safe or whatever, and monies are passing through and going around and back into funding terrorist activities. And so there are a lot of things that are going on that we are being used for, and sometimes an investment that doesn't make much business sense to you may make a lot of sense to the guy, because his interests are not in the profit that particular business can make, but the convenience of that particular business, for hiding
Well then, in that instance, if the kind of money that I see wasting in Silver Sands, that could have some farms out there producing at least if you want to throw money away, let me throw it away in a productive sector that could build us up. So,
But remember, buying passport is not something that is new. In England, if you have the money and you want to buy a British passport, you could buy a British passport. You could buy, you have to meet their criteria. But talking about the CBI, I have met somebody a business man who wants to invest in Grenada. I know they want to invest in a hospital. And to get to the Prime Minister, it is very difficult to get to the Prime Minister. People wouldn't allow you to see him. They will stop you. I go out quite a lot. I eat out a lot in restaurants. And the amount of our representative I see in the corner, head deep in conversations with foreigners. You would think that if a foreigner, I don't know what, and I've seen many of them talking deep in conversation. I was going for a property, and a government representative made me did not get the property, and I was told that it has gone to a foreigner. I offered $100,000 more for that property, and I didn't get it, to a Grenadian. How many Grenadians do you know that cannot do it $100,000 more for a property? I didn't get it. A government minister, a government minister had something to do with it. And I was told that same property was sold to a Russian person. So this is things that is happening out there. We can't. That's why I always say we cannot blame the Prime Minister, because I do not believe that he knows all the things that is going on. And that is the reason why he says, when you know something about it, speak about it. Come out there and say and speak, because there is a lot of people, it seems that they have their own little government outside of the man that is ruling.
But I keep wondering how so many things can happen. So many negative things can happen. A list that is long as 10 people's arms joined together and counting. And your beloved the Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Keith Mitchell, is unaware that any of these things are happening. Every time you say that, you're making me look like an inept, idiotic fool. Every time you say that the Prime Minister is unaware of all the crap that goes down, you're not helping his cause, because you're either saying he's an idiot who is not spending any time paying attention to the job that the people of the country have given him, or he's aware of it and doesn't care, or is encouraging it. I mean, it's one of those, and you seem to be saying, oh, he doesn't know what's going on. So, I mean, we really need to change the Prime Minister quick then, and get somebody who's actually awake on the job, because the Prime Minister seems to have been sleeping on the job for 25 years. He really needs that Tanya Log, Kitaka. He needs that Tanya Log boy with some peppermint.
Real cinnamon and ginger.
Some real, yes, seriously, that man need to wake up, Rasta.
Bob and
Oh, I was going to say Bob and but I didn't want to go there. But no, Ms. McQueen, no, it's actually getting pretty funny that you keep saying that he doesn't know about any of these things. And even if he just knows about one of it, these things are so, what's the word, egregious to the nation, that even if he's just aware of one of it, it's enough for people to be dissatisfied. But you can't, all of these things can't happen. All of these things can't happen with people on boards that he appoints and recommends to boards, ministers that he sits with in cabinet week after week. People who are supposed to report to him, they all have to report to him, and you're saying that he don't know? She keeps saying she never met the Prime Minister. I'm telling you, Kitaka, she has been up in Victoria. She has been up in Victoria.
Watch Kalista, that is the greatest mystery. Like I read Nancy Drew, I watch CSI, I watch all kind of movie. This is the greatest mystery I ever see. Like that's the greatest love hate story I ever see. Like sometimes
it's the Carrico love, Nicholas still, Honorable Nicholas still was saying that sometimes I give him a little fire on Facebook, and he said that somebody commented and said, what kind of Carrico love you and Callisto have? Well, I want to know what kind of Carrico love the Prime Minister McQueen have with the Prime Minister, because like seriously, You know, she told me she was up in St. Mark's today, and she gave me a reason why she went up there. But I'm beginning to wonder if that's why
I find she
think I-
holding, I find she
You
keeping
think, you think,
information from us, eh? Miss
you
McQueen,
think,
as our conversation 473 family, we want full disclosure. We don't must have it on
full
air, but
disclosure.
out of air, we want full disclosure of the nature of relationship you have with the PM, because you just be on one end, you just be talking like you're running the update, and another end, you're giving us something else. We want to know where you stand. We're confused right now. Where do you stand? What going on?
maybe I'm learning from the politician. I'm speaking at both side of my mouth. No, I always like to give, as Kellen said, I always like to give people the benefit of the benefit of the doubt.
I think it's a little late to take the benefit of the doubt position in this particular case. It's a little late for that. We're like 2 decades too late for that.
I mean, I hear, I speak, I'm very upfront and I speak and I hear a lot of things, but I have a very good friend that is very close to the Prime Minister, and I trust that person 100%. And I remember he was in charge of the Grenada Football Association, Ram Folks. And he is very close to the Prime Minister. And Ram speaks so nice of the Prime Minister. If Ram was to say to me, and I respect that man, so I respect Ram Folks so much. If he was to say to me, the Prime Minister was not a good person, my tune would have been totally different. But the respect I have for Ram and the respect I see he has for the Prime Minister, I am still giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Well, we understand that, Ms. McQueen, but what I'm saying is that could be a two-edged sword. For me, everyone has good qualities. So everyone has good qualities, and everyone has their shortcomings. But when it comes to managing,
dance is very amusing.
When it comes to managing country affairs, and even with your company, like I like you as a person, but if I see you doing the wrong thing in Monkpew, that's a different thing from me liking you as a person who would help me, who would bail me out of jail, who would support me. So it's like the person and the person character could be here, the person's performance and capacity and competence could be here, and it's varying ways in which an individual will be judged. So the brush cannot be painted right across as a saint, not
you
as
see
a
how
devil.
upset.
But
You see how upset I am about this money. Every time I hear speaking about this money, I get upset. This 1.3 billion that crooks come and take from poor Grenadians. And I speak about it and I want answers. I would never stop until I get answers. Somebody said to me today that they looked at the show and they said, Ms. McQueen, I hear you speaking, and you're saying the Prime Minister this and the Prime Minister don't do that and he's all innocent, blah, blah, blah. Why don't you ask him who they sell the post office to? And I said, the post office, what post office? She said that the government has sold the post office and they refuse to disclose who they sold it to. And I don't believe that. Why would the government sell the post office? The post office does not belong to the government. So how could they sell something that belongs to the Grenadian people and refuse? If that is true, then my tune would change. I don't believe it.
The oil belongs to us too. They're refusing to say who is a Chinese company that has bought over shares.
Who said that? Why would they refuse to say that? The same thing
okay. Let me ask this, Ms. McQueen. Have you really been paying attention to what's been going on in the country? Because those things are well established. Okay, I mean, the government has given responses on things. One side has complained this is going on, and this information is out there and available of what is going on, what has happened, what the situation is with our oil, GPG running out of money, selling interests in the oil in the blocks that they have exploration rights to a Chinese company.
So how do you know that? If it's hidden, you know all this information.
They are refusing to say who is a Chinese company that GPG has gone into business with. No, GPG
But
ran into
why?
financial problems. Well, the next time you go up to Victoria by the Prime Minister, ask him.
What I
I
am
will.
what Kalishta, what Donald Trump saying thing when the woman ask about the thing is no, ask China. so
It
so
may
that's the
tell me to
same.
ask Kalistra.
But
You know,
Miss McQueen,
I would love to see that. I would love to see that our post office has been sold. I would like to
The
see it.
program is almost
And
over and it's done.
the government is refusing to say who it is sold to. If that is the case, then I will take the government to court to find out who it is sold to, because they can't do that.
They're not supposed to, but excuse me, they're not supposed to, but they could and they did. They did a lot more than that. You keep quarreling you keep complaining and lamenting night after night that $1.5 billion got wings and flew away. And you still, I mean, come on, at this point, like seriously,
But I could understand.
the next pool party you having in St. Mark's with the Prime Minister, you have to invite me, or otherwise I'm flying a drone over that house to see what's going on. Because no, she's been St. Mark's, man.
But what I'm saying is that Kalisha, what I'm saying is that the people in the conversation 473 family is people who is very nationalistic, very patriotic to the country, and they're very radical. So Ms. McQueen, just know you might have a revolution and might throw out the program, you know? Because if the conversation 473 family they're watching that kind of way, you know, because they have the eyes of the hawk.
Kellon, after I finish with Spice Mart, I'm making sure every month I put my money into a little kitty, into a little box. So I would take on the government. I would go back to court if I think they are doing something that is not right. If I believe that they are hiding things from us, I will go to court and speak about it. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'll go back to court. But so far, I do not believe all these things I'm hearing.
It takes a lot to make Kalistra speechless, eh? For a few seconds there. I mean, you know what? I got tired trying with her. I am tired trying with her. Miss McQueen, you can go back into it was in the 80s, the late 80s. Is it the Worrell reports? You know, try to get your hands on the Worrell report and read that. The Cheltenham report, read that, you know, find out what exactly the history of our oil exploration deals, you know, our deals that we made with the stadium. Take a look at the pictures of the stadium after Ivan that buckled like cardboard. Because we were fooled. You know, try to
fool the people. Are there people that is taking backhand? What we fool is that people taking backhand. The only
okay, Miss McQueen, like seriously, okay, if we have that level of corruption by officers within the public, within the public administration system, right? Somebody taking a bribe here not to do their job. Somebody going and lying with a sweet woman up in Batway instead of going to work and do the job and supervise and that kind of thing, right? So fine. But how come the Prime Minister, you know, his whole thing going to hell in a handbasket? He doesn't notice that all of these things are going wrong. He's not announcing, you know, where are the investigations? Where is the leadership? Where's the minding of the store?
Miss McQueen, but either way,
even if your position is that, then what you are saying is that he's not minding the store. And if you have a boss who is not minding the store, then like in a normal reality, then that boss really needs to find another job.
What I'm saying is either way, Miss McQueen and Kalistra, either way, whether it is knowledgeable about it, whether there's deniability, whatever, the fact that it's happening and we do have system in place to nip it in the bud, for things to improve and move better, is a grave cause of concern for me as a young person coming up in the country. And it pains my heart to hear us talking about it so abstract and so apart from ourselves, when I could have really been benefiting from that. Kalistra could have been benefiting from that kind of money, and we could be making smarter decisions with how we deal with the country's resources. And we just laugh about it, but so no matter really get into it too much because it has hurt my heart. Because we really have to get serious about this thing. Because we can't be talking about it abstract and things just going on normal and fellas continuing, money continuing to miss in liquor organizations here and there, and we're just going along the place. That has to
When
stop.
I look at it, the reason why I have difficulty believing lots of the things, look at my office is on the Carenage. And last week, I went in, I offered the police and them to go in, and because one of the guys that work for me does air conditioning, and I went in and I said, please, can we, because when you go in the station, it stinks. I don't know how we expect our police to work in that type of condition. And I went in and I said, can I repair your air conditioning, but service it for them? And to even just to go and service the air conditioning at the station, it's a whole set of forms you have to fill in, and they're afraid you can't do that. If you do that, there is protocol and all them things in them. So I cannot understand if they have to go through all this rigmarole to just have a condition fitting, or just to give them a little telly or do something. They have to go fill out all this paper. How could you give away a post office and there is no paper trail?
It's not that there's no paper trail. Grenada has no Freedom of Information Act, and so it's not like the documents get released after a while, or you can ask for the documents, and under legislation you have to be given the documents and stuff like that. The government basically has is it extreme or maximum leadership that Kellon mentioned in a higher up comment. The government gets to do whatever they want.
So then the people allows the government.
No one takes them to court for anything. No one marches in the streets against anything. So you know what? If you have the freedom to do whatever you want, then you do whatever you want. It's
I'll take them to court. I would take them to court if I believe.
You're sure?
Don't waste your money, man.
You might have to wait for the government to change. You're sure you want to take your boyfriend to court?
And Ms. McKinney, you waste all that money, man. That's too much money, man. You just see how you have to put off some workers because of COVID. You have to save that money to invest in your business and to go sustainable. You put in too much plastic in the country too. So there's a lot of things you have to address in your business. I would not give you that advice. I would not give you that advice. No, I know you want to take the money.
We have to stand. You like to negotiate too much. I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to stand up and.
Ms. McQueen, let me say this, okay? The government of Norway, I believe it was, okay, made an offer to Grenada to provide assistance in our oil exploration. Okay, so we would have had a government that has the know-how and the technology and the resources to assist us with this. We did not accept it. We went ahead and made deals with questionable businessmen from Russia, with very, very turbulent business history, and linked to all kinds of questionable deals, as happens with the Russian situation, as a lot of us may be aware, and went ahead and did that. So instead of accepting the assistance of a government to try to find our oil to make life easier for our people, they went into all kinds of deals. We've been exploring for so long. Up to now, we have not even brought up a tablespoon of anything that resembles any kind of oil, right? Instead, all we're hearing is GPG. First, we had the deal with Grindberg, and then we pulled the arrangement we had with him. I think he took us to court and he won, and we had to pay monies again. I don't think Batiste listed that part in his letter. Did he talk about the Grindberg deal? And with Gregory Bowen been linked to that situation as well. And then, dealing with GPG, Grindberg had been involved with, he was part of a deal in the Eastern Bloc somewhere, I can't remember which country, they had falling outs, and now with GPG, which is a Russian company, um, ended up doing a new deal with the government. That situation put us in trouble with Grindberg, who had the original thing that this particular administration during a previous dispensation had signed. Now they've been exploring for so long. They've run out of money. They've given the rights they've sold some of the rights to China. We don't know who. We don't know what the circumstances are. And up to now, not a tablespoon. So.
But then the people don't care. Obviously, when we have election, the opposition
well, it's not even about whether or not the people care. The point we're discussing here now is the governance and the leadership. This is what we're discussing here. I know that it's not that the people don't care, it's that the people feel powerless.
Yeah,
it's not that they don't care, they care. They care, but they don't know what to do. They're afraid. I mean, what do you do? People just believe that the prime minister is the supreme leader and the supreme being, and what he says goes. I mean, there are people in this country who actually believe that the money in the treasury belongs to the prime minister, for heaven's sake.
Well, that's sad. That's really sad because, it hurts me when I go to my village and I see my people. When I see people can't even afford to go to get prescription when they have, when they are ill. I have a family member who had a collapsed lung that couldn't go and get an X-ray until all the family put together and get him that. I care about them things and them. It hurts my heart. So, if these things are happening, then let us see. There must be people in the ministry that would leak the paper. You're a journalist. Send it to you. There are people that has that information on their fingertip. Put it out there. Let people know what is going on, so we could have more facts than hearsay. Somebody was saying when you hear people, people usually talk, and the truth is far from the truth. Let us see. There are people out there. Not everybody that support the prime minister in the ministry. Just as how they had leaked the telephone bills with this young man, they could leak all the others as well. Why don't they, leak it? You have journalists here. I know Kalisha would write about it. You don't have to call your names if they say the post office was closed, has been sold, and the government is refusing to say. The government don't go home with the paperwork of that. It's somewhere in the ministry where people can put it out. If people know that if I'm working in a ministry and I know me and you doing the same business, and you are paying less than what I am paying, I would leak it. I would turn around and I would call you up and I say, Kalisha, do something about it, because me and you are doing the same business, and this person is paying less than what you are paying. We have to speak up. We can't keep quiet. As I said, we grew up and we've always been told that the Apollo is worse than the thief. If you see somebody is doing something wrong, you speak about it. There are ways you can bring things out.
That's why you should speak about what the prime minister is doing wrong.
But there is no proof. What I'm saying, give me the proof.
Okay. She's gonna be on a campaign platform in the next election, and it's not going to be the platform that I would have anticipated. She's going to be on the NNP platform. She is one of the most valuable assets to the prime minister right now. Okay.
Somebody. Kalisha, next Miss Margaret is a CIA agent.
You gotta give her 2 weeks holiday from the program and monitor her movements. Seriously.
KGB.
We will get there. I believe. Listen. There is a love I have for Grenadier and Grenadian.
And the prime minister.
Well, yeah, I don't know, for Grenada and Grenadian.
You love that man to death. I don't know if
nobody. I would stand up and I would, if I see anybody, whether it's the prime minister or anyone taking advantage, I would speak up. If I am disappointed and if I see everything what you are saying what people are saying, I've been told is the truth, I wouldn't keep my mouth quiet. I would stand up and I would fight for it. I would stand up and I would fight for my people. That's one thing I don't have no problem with.
Well, Ms. McQueen, before we go and wrap up, guys, Kellan was making a very important point. You have to check it out. Ms. McQueen, we need a more robust cadre of courageous, investigative journalists in Grenada. Callistra cannot carry the burden alone. The problem in these journalists are comfortable being close to the seat of power. Some of them are comfortable with being part of the status quo. And I think that's a very powerful point because I've been there and I've seen how how people feel so nice when they get to interview the Prime Minister and they're free to ask him questions, or how when there's receptions and so people more focus on eating refreshments and not focus on following up the stories and so on. So that courage is not really there. How press conferences are put out as news and so on. So I think we really need that. I guess I'm also working, maybe we could work on some journalistic courses, Kellan, that we could do some little short courses with some of the people in Grenada to get that going. College, maybe that could be a way to make some monies, So let me see what's going on.
Well, MWAG, I think they're supposed to be getting at $26,000 from the OAS or somebody to do some training, but I don't really think training is journalism. Training is the problem with us, right? Because learning to write, knowing how to write and stuff, that's like a whole different thing. Journalism is about finding the information, finding the truth, finding the sides of the coin, and putting it there. Your editor will fix it and make it look nice and make it read nice for you. Okay.
Well, maybe it's an apprenticeship program. Let's check, Callistra. Maybe an apprentice program to work under you as an understudy. Maybe that could work.
What we need is for our journalists to stop being scared, to stop being afraid of those in power. And it's not just the government, it's big business, it's politicians, big business, people with big status and all of that. Journalists feel, I see it all the time, that they're supposed to cuddle up to them, and they feel so nice that they're actually that close to the beautiful people. Right, and I don't mean beautiful in terms of facial or anything, right? I'm just talking about circumstances and opportunities. And would not ask them questions. There are a lot of times when I would try to get an interview, we might be at some sort of function or something, and even if you go to a cocktail, I never went to a cocktail function. I used to go to all of them, never without my recorder, because this is where you meet the people. A man that you might be calling in his office day after day and his secretary telling you he's not there. You're going to meet him at one of those functions, and this is your chance to ask the questions that you want to ask. Same thing with the politicians. But you have this, journalists seem to be in awe of power and privilege, and and always position themselves on the weak side of the coin. There are times when you would ask certain questions. When I asked the Prime Minister, when he talked about his wife, and I asked the question that, since you mentioned your wife, does that mean that the rumors are not true? And this is how I asked the question. The question was a legitimate question because people were saying he was divorced, but he mentioned a wife. So I said, you mentioned a wife, does that mean the rumors are not true? And, I touched a nerve, so he went all crazy, banging the table and, coined that famous phrase, don't go there. I mean, even today, somebody was like, don't go there, Callistra. This is, fun people have with me sometimes.
Queen Britton said something. I would like to read that.
Well, let me finish, Ms. McQueen, right? So when I asked that question in the room, journalists were upset for weeks after that. They were all upset that I had no right to ask him that question. And this is one of the bigger examples. But all the time in the room, you would hear the groans and the grumbles when you're asking certain questions, or if somebody's dodging an answer and you're doing follow-up and continuing to follow up questions. There was a time when I was questioning Emlyn Pay on something, and she was trying to pussyfoot around the thing and acting smart, trying to act smarter than me by giving me non-answers and trying to tie up things. And the journalist who was sitting next to me got up and walked away with attitude, meaning I don't want to be around you because you're making trouble. I am called a troublemaker because I keep asking the questions, and I'm not just taking the first answer I get. Most of the times I cannot take the first answer I get because I've researched the situation. I have the facts, and what I want is a response from you. and I know you're bullshitting me. So it's hard for me to just accept the lie that you're telling, or the the damage control answer that you're giving, and just take it at face value and go, because I would have more information on the situation. And it's about an attitude with journalists. They need to understand their right, and they need to understand their power, and to understand that as journalists we are more powerful than the politicians. So yes, Queen's Britain was
Quincy
saying something.
Britton. Yeah, I would like to put that up. I just think that is just so sad what he said there. If you could read it out for us, please, Kitaka.
Miss McQueen, Kalistra can tell you all the wrongdoing of this administration that still labeled our parish as the poorest. Yet we have the father and mother of the House of Representatives living their best life amongst the poor people in this said parish.
Yeah. Dr.
Quincy, this
Clarice
is
Modeste Cohen has her mansion on what used to be some crown lands up at a place called Taylor, and the Prime Minister got the estate that he has, the estate house that he modernized and built. His weekend home is there as well. So two of our longest serving politicians actually live there. I mean, the St. Mark's has been called the poorest parish for the longest while. Unemployment is high. We hardly have any economic development there. Our agriculture, we have the potential to have one of the biggest, after St. Andrew, to have one of the biggest agriculture sectors in the country, and we don't. But the Prime Minister keeps calling us his second home, and he was true to his word. He actually put a weekend home up there, but still, so
that's very sad, you know.
Well, ladies, we have to wrap up. This conversation is wonderful, but we have to wrap up as well. We are going into 1 hour and 38 minutes. So, final 30 seconds comments and we wrap up, ladies. Miss McQueen?
We can't give up. We have to keep fighting. And, as I said, when you have to have a love, not only for country, but for the people as well. And that when you love your people, that is when you will see we can make changes. If you just love the country and you don't love your people, we wouldn't see change.
the country is the people.
The country is the people. Yeah.
That's your final statement, Kalistra?
Yes, and I will wrap up as soon as you make yours. Or you're wrapping up? You're wrapping
Oh
up
well,
tonight?
no. But for me, guys, today that conversation it took us some different angles, but to summarize, our government, our NADMA, our people, everyone in Grenada needs to put hurricane preparedness as something that we do continuously improve on systems to protect us as much as possible when a hurricane gets there. Pre-hurricane, during hurricane, and post-hurricane. So let's get to work with that and not just wait until hurricane season start to be running around helter-skelter. Water in our country is important. Let's safeguard that. Ms. McQueen, we really want to see putting on less plastics in the environment. That is the challenge of the people on Conversation 473 Army. Everyone who's supporting us, we really appreciate you. And we are about Grenada. And we want to see our country move forward, and country first, everything else after. Stay safe and stay blessed.
Before we go, Kitak, I just want to say quickly, I noticed that now that things are opening up, a lot of people are moving around and not wearing their masks. We're almost back to the same situation of people. I saw a lady with a mask up here wearing it as a headband today. I saw a hospital worker walking through town. She was obviously on duty and was heading back to the hospital with the same uniform that she'd been in the hospital with, ancillary staff, I believe, with her mask hanging down and not wearing it properly, and moving among the people in town and so on. The coronavirus situation is still upon us. The government is about to allow people into the country, Grenadians, of course, so they have to come home. but they're about to allow people into the country, but we do not have proper quarantine facilities. Now, the government has not made any announcement on what the quarantine procedures will be, whether they will be providing shelter for these people under quarantine, or whether they'll be asking them to quarantine in their own homes. Now, we know the fiasco that happened when the government allowed people to self-isolate, and that did not work. It's very difficult to get somebody to actually stay home if you're not watching them, right? Grenadians do whatever they want if you're not macroing them. So people, we still have to be careful. The opening up of the country means that the risk that it's going to increase. Over the last few weeks, our risk had decreased. Our risk to coronavirus is increasing and increasing rapidly again, because the government is now allowing more and more people into the country, and we do not have the ability to deal with the numbers. Okay, government is talking about reopening the airport by the end of June. When the end of June comes, we are going to see our numbers increase, because all of this talk about catching it on the airport, and we have the ability to catch it on the airport. You know what? We did not catch it on the airport. In fact, there were people who came through the airport, were walking around, had the virus, and the Ministry of Health did not know anything about it and did not even catch it until these people volunteered weeks later, after everybody within the household had contracted the virus. It was passed from one person to the next, and then at that point they went in voluntarily to be tested, and this is when they went on the Ministry of Health radar. So we should not be comfortable. Now is not the time for us to be comfortable walking around without masks and talking in people's faces. You see the people who hustling their little mango and stuff, and have to always engage with people and ask, oh, you want this or you want that, not wearing masks, but constantly talking and stuff like that. The vendors a lot in town not wearing their masks, and you need to wear your masks, because the government that you guys love so much did not put a proper health system in place for you. And Miss McQueen, as much as she loves the country, cannot fund a hospital, a fully equipped hospital for you, because that is going to be over $1 billion to give us a proper hospital.
But Kalista, before we go, Kalista, I'm eager to get your take on this. Like, I was looking on America and seeing the mass protests and the mass gatherings, the crowds, the shouting, the no mask, the mask, and so on. What's your take on that, and how that will impact the America in terms of COVID-19 transmissions?
Well, I mean, you know, the crowds they've long maintained, and it does make sense that crowds is not helpful for the prevention of the virus. So, you know, anybody who has the virus who's part of the protest, they will contaminate at least another 2 to 10 people. So they could very well see increased numbers as a result of the crowds that are gathering to protest. So that's it from us, your viewers. Thank you for being so engaged tonight. Brian, Mikhail, who else is on there? Kellan joined us. Queen's Britain, my man from Victoria. Ian Thomas was on as well. Eureka Hippolyte Bedesi made a lot of comments, and my very good friend Saisha Williams, thank you once again for being on and being so diligent in following the conversation and making countless comments. So good night, everybody. We'll see you again on Wednesday evening for more Conversation 473. This is easy.